Imagine you have a sibling who moves out from your parents' house and has this amazing life abroad, meets foreigners, explores new lands, becomes a global trendsetter, while you are stuck with your relatives who also took all the room for themselves. Now imagine that the successful sibling is the English language. Today we're going to talk about that other language that remained with the relatives. The language that maybe didn't become global like English, but that survived through the turmoils that were hitting mainland Europe over and over, and whose people are famous for being proud and stubborn. This is going to be a story of battling with the sea, migrations, trade, and tea? Hoi, my name is Julie and welcome to the Frisian language. This video is a collaboration with the History with Hilbert channel to promote his new channel, Frisian with Hilbert, where he explains all things Frisian. Do check it out. Subscribe to my channel too, by the way, if for some reason you haven't done it yet. New language videos are coming out every month. Frisian is spoken across two countries, the Netherlands and Germany. And an important side note, it's actually not just one language, but three at least. West Frisian is spoken in the Friesland province of the Netherlands by around 330,000 people. It is a native language to more than half of the population of Friesland, but many more can understand it. It is the second official language of the Netherlands, and in Friesland it is used alongside Dutch in government administration, education and media. North Frisian is spoken in northern Germany, in the North Friesland district, with only around 5 to 10,000 native speakers, which corresponds to 3 to 6% of the whole population of the district. It is an official language in North Friesland and on Heligoland Island. There are two varieties, mainland and insular North Frisian, which are quite distinct and could even be considered separate languages. These varieties are further broken down into 10 dialects with varying degrees of mutual intelligibility. East Frisian, or Saterland Frisian, spoken in the municipality of Saterland, Germany, has merely some 2,000 speakers remaining. And even these 2,000 are split into three mutually intelligible dialects. West Frisian also has several dialects, three mutually intelligible ones on the mainland and three small dialects on the islands. There is also the standard West Frisian, which is mainly based on Klaifrisk with some additions of Waldfrisk. So, why are there three Frisian languages? Why are they apart, and what happened that they split? Frisian is a Germanic language, and everything about ancient Frisians is undoubtedly Germanic. They wrote with the runes, they prayed to Thor and Odin, and they fought against the Romans. Only they called them Thuner and Weda, and the Frisi that fought the Romans might have been completely different from the Frisians that came after. But first things first. The Proto-Germanic people are said to have originated in southern Scandinavia. Around the 1st millennia BC, they started gradually migrating south, occupying the lands throughout all of the northern half of Europe. Here's a map with Europe inhabited mostly by the Celts, and here is Europe 500 years later. All this is Germanic now, while the Celts got sandwiched between them and the Roman Empire. The Romans, who tried to subjugate this new enemy, which, a side note, they will never be able to do, also wrote about them. Frisi are first mentioned in 12 BC in the account of Drusus's war. The lands of Frisi were located on the border of the Roman Empire, so naturally they were in the heart of the action. Nothing is known about the language of these ancient Frisi. In the 4th century AD, these lands became depopulated due to a much mightier enemy than the Roman Empire. The rising sea levels disrupted the way of life there, and people abandoned these lands until Anglo-Saxons arrived and repopulated them. From now on, we can talk about the real ancestors of Frisians. Anglo-Saxons were a West Germanic tribe. During the Great Migration period, chaos swept over Europe. The Huns came from somewhere and wreaked havoc. Goths came and took over Rome. Vandals ran all the way to Africa. Anglo-Saxons didn't need a special invitation, so they joined the party. They migrated to Frisia and took the name of the people who once lived there. They also got themselves some boats, and expanded to the British Isles. Their common Anglo-Saxon language split. This is why Frisian is called the sister language of English. It is the closest relative English has before secluding itself on an island. The split happened quite a long time ago, around 6th century, that's 1,500 years ago, and English changed so much under the influence of French, while Frisian got heavily influenced by Dutch and German, so an English speaker wouldn't be able to understand much of spoken Frisian. A Dutch speaker would be able to understand it much better. However, some sound change patterns testify that Frisian and English are closer to each other than to any other Germanic language. For example, the English they or way or the Frisian they and they have a final A sound, while in German you'd say tag or weg, and in Dutch tag or weg, where we see the consonant sound remained. In the Middle Ages, Europe was a complete mess, with every bully claiming himself the lord of that hill over there. But this weakness of central power meant that Frisians could enjoy relative autonomy. Frisians were famous for their trade across Europe. Some places, like Frisian in Cologne, where Frisians used to bring their merchandise, still bear memories of those times. Sometimes they traded peacefully, and sometimes they would, for example, join the Vikings in their highly profitable raids. Nothing personal, just business. Frisians in general were always famous for their tough character. They really resisted Christianity, for example. There is a story about King Radbot, who was going to get baptized. He was literally 1 foot in the baptismal font when he asked the priest if he'll be with his ancestors after death. The priest said, "Oh, the ancestors weren't Christians, so they'll be in hell, while you will enjoy your time in heaven." So Radbot said, "Better be in hell, but with my homies," and killed everyone. Frisians are still very proud of this story, so you better be careful if you try to convert them or something. During early Middle Ages, Frisian was spoken on a much larger territory than it is now. But progressively, outer powers were biting off pieces of Frisian land, and the dominant culture in these areas would change. The last remnants of autonomy ended when the Habsburgs got West Frisia and added it to their empire. When the Netherlands broke out of it, West Frisia became part of this new country, with the economically strongest province, Holland, getting the dominant role. East Frisia would become part of various German kingdoms, which in the 19th century merged into a brand new country, Germany. During this period, the language was gradually being replaced by Low German dialects, but only in Zuiderland it remained strong and survived until these days. This area was hard to access, surrounded by bogs, and until modern roads were built, you could only get there by boat. Even though most East Frisians switched to German, they still called themselves Frisians. They also kept one interesting tradition: tea. Apparently, they consume the most tea per capita in the world. It's not related to languages, but it's a curious little fact, so I thought I'll just mention it. North Frisia was settled by Frisians in 2 phases. In the 8th century by sea, settling the islands, and in the 10th century by land, settling the coastline. That's why the mainland and island varieties of North Frisian are quite different. They have different roots. North Frisia also came under rulership of various German and Danish lords, until in the 19th century it got incorporated into Germany as well. But again, these Frisians just like to settle in their marshes where no one can get them, so their language managed to survive even better than East Frisian. Now let's fast forward to 19th century Europe, where they've just discovered the coolest new trend: nationalism. In West Frisia, Dutch was dominating all educational, cultural, and administrative spheres. Frisian was an oral and mostly rural language at that time, but it became important to change it. Literary works in Frisian became prolific, and standard written West Frisian was developed. Having the standard orthography settled, the next step was to get more rights from the government. That didn't happen until the second half of the 20th century. In 1956, after a series of protests, Frisian got an official status in the province of Friesland. Now people can use Frisian in government institutions and in court. Frisian is an obligatory subject in primary and secondary schools, and there are Frisian medium schools available. East and North Frisian are in a completely different situation. North Frisian may be taught in a few primary schools in the region, but that's it. Let's see if Frisian will manage to preserve and grow their languages, and if in the future we will hear more Frisian. And if we do hear it, this is how it will sound. The first examples of written Frisian are actually pretty old. These are the runic inscriptions, dating between the 5th and 9th centuries. Runes were used for many Germanic languages, first appearing in Scandinavia around the 2nd century AD. Frisian written in the Latin alphabet is known since the Middle Ages. Since Frisian lands were more or less governing themselves, they were free to use their language. Between the 12th and 16th centuries, numerous texts were produced, mostly of legal, administrative and religious nature. With the end of Frisian autonomy, the production of Frisian texts gradually died out too. In the 17th century, a Frisian poet, Gijsbert Japix, produced work in Frisian, but the tradition of written Frisian really returned only in the 19th century. There are 25 letters in the West Frisian alphabet. There are 6 vowel letters, but oh boy, the things they do with just 6 letters. Frisian has an abundance of different vowel sounds. I mean, it's a characteristic trait of Germanic languages in general. As you know, in English there is a big variety of vowel sounds, which is especially annoying when they're all written the same way. Frisian really stands out, even by Germanic family standards, with more than 30 different vowels, which can be long or short, diphthongs, and even triphthongs. I mean, it's actually so hard to nail the vowels that in the Middle Ages, Grutte Pier, a former farmer whose family got slaughtered and who went on a quest for revenge, in the process becoming a fighter for Frisian freedom and a pirate. To uncover enemy intruders, he made them say a shibboleth in Frisian. Butterbrød en grine cheese, but dot net sizekin is kin oprøchte fries. Butterbread and green cheese, if you can't say that, you're not a real Frisian. If he heard the hit of an accent, I guess you know what happened then. With the consonants, it's a bit easier. The pronunciation is basically like in Dutch, so you probably wouldn't get killed for mispronouncing them. When East and North Frisians write their languages, they use the slightly more Germanized orthography, though as I said, there is no standard. Now let's hear these differences from the native speakers.
Oh ja, waarom ik in een hoofd, want dan hoor je het net tegen.
Nee, we hebben bij de buurman een beetje praten en hij zei misschien...
Dat bij mijn zoon weer. Ja, dat hij hem nou even werd. Ja, want mijn kwandachter die bellen mij.
Oh!
We hebben er een familie van mij, ik zou dat kennen.
Nee.
Ik zei, mijn vriendin komt wel uit Canada, maar ik zei, die kent het wezen.
Oh.
Klimaskühl is een abkovenwetten van ons aal. Maar ook het sprakenklima veroorzaakt zich. IJske. En ook daar zijn we met een oor verantwoordelijk. Het sprakenklima kan we bloot met een oor schuilen.
Wir werden Bieses, Eiweiße, wir werden ist, natürlich wollen wir dem erlauben. Wir haben doch einen ganzen Port gefunden, bis Norden das Brecken, bis Norden das Tschüss Brecken, das Tschüss Kultur, so wird ja für gerne Manname können sie leben und Wackel und so weiter.
Did you hear any difference between the 3 varieties? As an English speaker, or if you speak any other Germanic language, did you understand anything? And while you're writing me a comment about how you like Frisian, let's dive into the grammar section, because afterwards you may be liking it less. Since there are many more resources in West Frisian, I'll be using this variety to illustrate grammar. I hope you understand. In terms of grammar, within the Germanic language family, Icelandic would be the most conservative, German preserved some older features, English transformed and simplified its grammar the most, while Frisian is somewhere in between German and English. Frisian has 2 genders, masculine and feminine. In German there are 3, and in English there are no genders. There are 2 ways of forming plurals, by adding s at the end, same as in English, and by adding n. Also, as in English, Frisian preserved some special words that become plural by changing stem vowels, like ko, cow, that in plural becomes k. Frisian has 10 pronouns, which are similar to English, except that there are separate pronouns for the informal and formal singular you. Also, some pronouns have a different form, depending on whether the emphasis is on the pronoun or not, like in she lives in Denmark versus she lives in Denmark. You see that the pronoun she is slightly different. Also, you can see that the standard word order is SVO, though it changes when you add a subordinate clause. For example, I see the cat, this is the basic SVO order, but then you say, when I see the cat, I am happy, or literally, when I the cat see, am I happy, which totally explains why my phone is full of cat pictures, and I don't think it's a problem. But something else is happening in this phrase. The word order became completely reshuffled, and in the first part, the verb sien went to the end, while in the second part, the verb wezen went to the beginning. Yes, wezen becomes ik bin, and sien becomes ik sjoch, which can only mean one thing. There is verb conjugation. English only preserved the addition of the ending s in third person singular, but in Frisian it's a bit more fun. There are the so-called strong and weak verbs, and again, it's a common characteristic for all Germanic languages. Weak verbs form past and perfect by adding an ending ed. Familiar, isn't it? Strong verbs change stem forms. You know, the so-called irregular verbs, so loved by English and German language learners. Frisian has them too. Verbs conjugate according to number and person, but the patterns are fairly simple. All plural plus the polite you have the same form. I mean, in some sense, Frisian is between German, Dutch and English, but in another, it went its own path, developed its own special way of doing things. In North Frisian, for example, they still preserved the old Germanic month names, which basically describe what is happening during that month. There is a bloom month, a harvest month, a Christmas month, and what can I say? Poor February. Frisian also has quite a peculiar system for family relations. Let's say you have grandchildren. You can call them Berns Ben, which is basically children's children, or if you're their grandma, you call them Beppe Scissors, ones that say grandma, and if you're their grandpa, you call them Pakke Scissors, ones that say grandpa. Hilbert made the whole video on this subject, so check it out, and check out his Frisian with Hilbert channel if you want to learn more about Frisian or even learn Frisian. Frisian has gone its own way, and because of complicated geography, because of revitalization efforts, finally, because of the stubbornness of Frisian people, the language is still around and is probably not going anywhere. Don't forget that you can vote on the next language on my Patreon, and thank you to my patrons for supporting this endeavor. This year I managed to make one video a month, and I want to make even more. So thank you so much for watching, and see you in our next exploration.